So in this video, we're going to start working toward displaying the course content. So let's get started running npm run diff, and let's head into our course here, and let's display some content. So if you go ahead in here, we can now essentially, inside course content, start working through some data here. So what we can do in here is we can create a template. This template should consist of a v4 content and the index of the content in courses, and then in here we want to find essentially the lesson we are on. So currently, obviously, we haven't got that data passed through, so we want to head into the controller where we basically showing this course. So whenever we're showing a course, we're also showing a lesson. Therefore, in the web.php page, we want to actually go in and make sure we are showing the lesson slug in here. And by doing that, we should be able to just get through the lesson one in here and pass through a lesson resource where we make the lesson. So there's a couple of things that will break by doing this, but let's get started with just implementing this resource. Make sure you implement it not from Filament. And then outside of that, we want to maybe define the props in here. So let's go ahead and make sure we have that in here. We want to define type innocent object, and we want to require this. So at the moment, this will fail. So if you go into courses.test/admin, make sure you are logged in. You can see that the lesson we have here as a starter actually doesn't have a slug, which we haven't provided. So for now, let's go by the lesson ID. And if we go in here now, this is not necessarily number one. So what we can go ahead and do is go into our database software. And let's make sure we're actually showing it in here. So let's head into our database here. Let's head into the lessons, and we have ID number 3. So if we go in now and just say 3, you can see that this is working just as we expected, which is perfect. So what we can do now is we can just go in and say in lesson here, and we need to get it by the contents of the lesson. So we basically want to go through that, and then in here, let's create a diff where we have a key in here where we pass through, in this case, the index. We could even potentially pass through the key in the template, so let's try to do that instead. And then let's put through a diff in here where we just have content iterated through for now. So currently this is giving an error. So let's go into make sure that we have actually got this in here. So let's just go and see what the lesson gives us here. Currently still breaking, so I'm just going to go ahead and at the moment we're getting no data through. So if we go into our course show controller, we're passing through the lesson as the secondary variable, so it should be fine here. If we dive on course and lesson, let's see what we get of values here. So I'm just going to close this bar here. So yeah, we are getting both values passed through, which is perfect. and we're not getting anything through here. So if we see if this may be a type thing, no, it's not. All right, so currently I think this issue could also be and of course the reason why this is not working is because we're not passing through this in here to the course content. So let's go ahead and pass through the lesson into there. And in here, let's also have the lesson title. And if we then go ahead and take a look now, this seems to work fine. So sorry about that. Let's get working on it though. So let's create this template here where we have a v4 with content index in lesson.contents, the key as index. Then in here, let's just create for now I just want to pass through the content in here. Okay, that's great. So what we can go ahead and do now is actually start displaying the content depending on what type of content it is. So let's create a div in here, another one. This div in here is just going to contain anything where content, the type, in this case, if you remember inside the lesson resource, inside the text resource, we have this type as a resource and video. So we want to just call this type text instead. So if we go ahead and say text in here, then we should just be able to say content, and then in here we know that if it's text, we actually want to display the HTML, so we just want to have a div with a v-HTML there. Content, because that's what we called it in here. So now we have this test content here, and that's essentially what we're having from this text here, where we have test displayed here, and it's rendering it as HTML. So that works just as we would imagine, which is great. So this is essentially how we're able to render this data. And we can then do the same thing, but for now we don't have any video example or way to embed the video. So we're just gonna create a content type and set that to video. And then just in here, for now, just leave content rendered out if we have a video. So for now, this works just as you would expect. There's a lot of text in here, so if we just go ahead and write in some lorem ipsum text, maybe some underline, heading, some code, and just go ahead and change it. Make sure we have that for both of these, but I'm gonna call this text 2. And currently, obviously, we also need to start this up, so it actually starts it up, because currently we haven't got this set up in our CSS file, so that's something as well we need to sort out. But thank you very much for watching this video. In the next couple of videos, we can then start loading into video resource and so on. And we're just going to start working our way toward actually loading into relevant resources here, so people can learn through different contents here. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching it. Please hit the like and subscribe button.